talk about lifestyle habits that can really help you with your perimenopause and menopause journey, and maybe some of the ones that you might be having or doing which might be sabotaging it. So let's look at what you're eating for a start. Making sure now that you are eating regularly throughout the day rather than sort of nitpicking here and there, because it's really important that we stabilize our blood sugars. We know that when we enter into that perimenopause stage, that our metabolism, our metabolic health changes. You know, there's a change in distribution of body fat. We get more fat around the middle. We become at a higher risk of diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and obesity. So I think one of the keys, or even more important when we are in our 40s, is making sure we balance our blood sugars. And how we can do that is ensuring that we eat sort of protein-rich meals with lots of fibre, and eat them regularly throughout the day, and not snacking in between. Okay. Also making sure you drink plenty of water, stay hydrated. It's good for our brain, it's good for our skin. So paying a bit more attention to our fluid intake is also important. And if you are somebody who's a smoker, now's the time to stop. Not just because it's good for your heart health, it's good for, reducing your risk of cancers, but, from a vein point of view, as we age and our estrogen hormone starts to decline, that affects our collagen. It means that we're more likely to get more wrinkles, we lose that sort of luster to our skin. So stopping smoking will only help with not only the inside, but the outside of us as well. The other things are looking at what we're eating. We know that a Mediterranean diet is really good for women in midlife. And the reason for that is because it contains nuts and seeds, good oils like avocado, olive oil, oily fish, all of which help to reduce the inflammation in the body, but also has got those isoflavones that help to mimic the effects of estrogen. So as estrogen is declining, we can support it a little bit through our diet, but also from an anti-inflammatory point of view, from a point of view of sort of weight management. A colourful diet with antioxidants is really, really sort of key to moving into that next stage of our life, healthy and positive. Another sort of top tip I would say is stress management is more important than you might have thought. I used to think, as a doctor in my 20s and 30s, we always got taught about, managing stress. Stress is a risk factor for heart disease. Stress is a risk factor for blood pressure. But I'm going to be honest with you, I think I slightly underestimated it. Didn't really think it could have so much effect. But once we get into our 40s, once we get into midlife, and we're juggling so many different things, family, children, elderly parents, work, partners, all of those kind of things, just making that little bit of time for yourself, 10 minutes a day, just quiet time, silent time, or, making that sort of half an hour for going for a walk around the block to help to de-stress and lower those cortisol levels is really, really important and key. And especially when we're living in a world as we are these days, where there is a lot of doom and gloom going on, and it can feel, it can really affect your mood. And talking about mood, something simple that can really help to elevate mood and boost that mood, we talk about sort of dopamine hits, is just some exercise. Doing something that you like, maybe dancing around the kitchen, maybe doing some squats, every hour or so, skipping, hula hooping. You might have seen me do some of those things. They don't have to be long, they don't have to be complicated, they don't have to involve expensive gym memberships. But I think, it's about getting something into a pattern, maybe 10-15 minutes a day, dancing around, putting some music on, things that really fire off those neurons in the brain. And another thing I think which is so important, and again, when you're in the 20s and your 30s, you probably could get away with a little less sleep. Didn't matter if you went out late, but now's the time that you really sleep has to be a priority. Sleep we need for our long-term health, for longevity, but also so that the next day, we don't feel so tired, we don't feel so grumpy, we don't feel so irritable. So getting that sleep routine in, and almost ring fencing it for yourself, having that sleep routine, understanding that, you need that sleep. Almost, I was going to say from a prescription point of view, so to help with your mood, your brain fog, your energy levels, but also from a point of view of weight management. I think I often say that sleep is a key important component of weight loss. If you're trying to lose weight, you've got to be sleeping well as well. Otherwise, you're going to feel hungry, you're going to crave all of those foods. And we know that those hormonal shifts in perimenopause, how they affect, blood sugar, mood, energy, as well as physically hot flushes, night sweats, your bladder leaks. So taking time out now and really sort of focusing on some of the lifestyle changes can mean that you can ease your own perimenopause and menopause journey. If you've got any more tips that you want to share with everybody, then just sort of pop them below and don't forget to subscribe.